Welcome to this podcast where we're going to complete the note, what are anatomy and physiology, or what are A and P? In order to do this note, you're going to need probably 2 colors of pens, a highlighter, and probably a ruler. Okay, let's get started. We've already got the title that we set up in class, so let's go ahead and turn our book sideways so we can fill this in. The very first thing that we need to think about is that anatomy and physiology is something that you have studied somewhat before. It's not a totally new course, as we saw when we did the We Are Not Blank Slates activity. But you need to think about what science course did you see this material in? And that should come to you probably pretty easily. Biology. So anatomy and physiology are subsections, if you will, of biology. Well, what is biology the study of? Yes, you studied anatomy and physiology in there, but you also studied ecology and botany and a host of other things. Well, biology is really the study of life, or the study of all living things, of which humans and our anatomy and physiology are a part of. Okay, so within biology we have many different sections, but the 2 that we are most interested in this course are, of course, anatomy and physiology. So we're going to fill those in as 2 branches. And as I said, there's many other branches of biology, but these are the 2 that we are most interested in. Okay, so what does it mean? What does anatomy mean? What does physiology mean? Well, anatomy is really what we've talked about so far. And here's what we'll put for that. Anatomy is the study of structure or shape of the body / or its parts. Okay? So basically, what do things look like? What do they look like? What are they made of? What are the different parts of the body? We've talked about different organs, different bones, different muscles. That's all anatomy. Physiology, meanwhile, is the study of how the body / parts work or function. Okay? So anatomy is, what is it? What is it made of? What are the names? And physiology is, okay, so how does it work? Anatomy, the heart is made up of 4 chambers. Physiology, how do those 4 chambers work to pump blood throughout the body? So using your highlighter, I want you to highlight these key words. Anatomy is all about structure. What does it look like? What is it made of? Whereas physiology is all about function. How does it work? Okay. All right. Then we'll go back to anatomy, and there's actually 2 types of anatomy, and we'll study both in this course. So we'll break this down further into 2 subsections. And the first is going to be called gross anatomy. Okay. Gross, which is spelled just like the word ew, that's gross, but it means something totally different. And then the other one is going to be called microscopic anatomy. Okay. You probably know what this one means. Microscopic, things that are very small, and that's exactly what it means here. So microscopic anatomy, we'll be talking about cells and tissues, okay, which are very small structures. Think about that hierarchy activity we did in class on Friday, looking at levels of organization. Cells and tissues are both pretty small, okay? So small is considered microscopic anatomy. Going over to gross anatomy, gross, or the word gross in this case, means large, big scale. So for gross anatomy, we'll be talking about large, easy to see structures. So an example of gross anatomy would be things like our bones, our muscles, our brain, our hearts, things like that that are large and easy to see. Microscopic, much smaller scale. Okay, so that's a little bit more about the 2 types of anatomy. Under physiology, we're not going to divide it into more parts, but we are going to do one specific example. Okay, so here's an example. If someone specializes in medicine and they go into further studies, one thing they might go into further studies in is cardiac physiology. Okay, cardiac physiology. Well, let's break this down. Cardiac is a word you've probably heard before, which means pertains to the heart. And physiology, we know, is all about how something functions or how something works. So cardiac physiology is just a fancy way of saying how the heart works. Okay? One more thing we have to add to the bottom of this note. I'm going to go ahead and add this in marker because it's really important. We said anatomy was all about structure. Well, in biology in general, but in anatomy and physiology specifically, this is a very important statement. Structure determines function. So what something looks like, its anatomy, how it's built, how it's made, determines its purpose, determines what it will be used for. Okay, the heart has to have hollow chambers in order for the blood to pass through it, and it has to have muscle in order to pump that blood and move it throughout the body. So its structure determines its function or determines what it will do. That concludes this note.